So we've hung the hammers and revisited the piano, retook our samples, spaced the hammers to the strings, and we've come out to the bench, set up bedding, strike, and it's now time to record the hammer scale. And the trick is to draw your line after you've lowered the hammer. Particularly with nicely filed newly filed hammers. Don't want to be putting ink marks on them. The next step is to record the heights of the templates in case we turn a wrong knob and suddenly we're not sure if this is in the right place or something bumps it. In any case, if we create the record in a very specific place, then we can recreate that exact height, even though this may or may not be perfectly in the plane with the action. So I'm taking the front of my regulating rack feet flush and placing them flush to the guides that I've placed on my MDF surface. And I'm going to take my measurements at the outermost notes, which I now have a scale for. So it's a very specific place, and if anything happens, we'll have confidence to be able to reset it in the right place and not have to go back to the piano. Now I have written on the plunger the names of the sample notes. The registration holes are on an angle, and so they can't be confused with each other, and there are two sides to the plunger. So we'll have up to 10 samples. In this case, we'll need 8. Okay, so the first one, you just lift it up. Go to the first hole. Make a mark. Go to the second. So this gives us a record that, you know, has a pattern to it that is recognizable. Let's see if I can make sure you can see it at a glance if you've done it before. And when we say we're setting up note number 1, we just place that little dot in the hole. Now, a curious thing about this is that actually you can see a little bit of the dot in number 5, because weirdly, there's number 1, and there's number 5, and actually it's a little bit higher. So number 1 is a bass string, overstrung scale, Obviously, 57 is a treble string, and in theory, there's a difference of about 5/16 of an inch, certainly a quarter of an inch. Yeah, between the two sections. And if you just have a two-tier bore, which is commonplace and the tradition, then you've got all your bass notes with one bore and all your treble notes with another bore. Where do you measure from? Do you split the difference? Now, interestingly, the first tenor note and 88 are very close to being the same. It's a little tiny bit higher here. There's an overall curve to the plate that has created this situation. Plus, this is tilted up. That may be curve of the plate, but it also may be a design feature that this curves down a little bit and this curves up. But overall, we'll benefit by having custom bored hammers, which brings us to the next thing that I want to show you. If we pop off these stops, they're set up so that when this is all the way back, we're at strike. But if we get them out of the way so that we can go past strike, we can go back into alignment with the center pins. So we have strike suspended over the hammer centers. And with the help of calipers, digital calipers, we can place the calipers on the top of the template and extend down to a place where we can see halfway through the center pin. Just lock it. And then that gives us the height from here to the center. Now what we want is a bore distance with a 1-inch tail, and this template is 3 inches tall. So if we take the overall measurement we have and subtract 2 inches from it, then we have the bore distance plus 1 inch. And anyway, we take a series of measurements like that, and which we have already done, which I failed to show in the earlier videos. And from that, we draw on the tails the overall distance that reflects these the measurements that we've taken, and cut off the tails. And at our hammer boring jig, we have a stop for the tails. So there's one setup for all the hammers, and that stop is set 1 inch from where the bit bores the hole. So it's a really nice way to do it, and it has the benefit of having the shanks, once regulated, all the same distance above their whippings and above their rest rail or rest cushions if they had fixed cushions. A problem for not doing this is that you have a big space in the middle under your rest cushions, and the rest cushions are there as a stop. And if it's really bad, what can happen is the back of the hammers collide with the top of the back checks, and that's hidden away in the playing. It doesn't feel right, but it's hard to identify. And clearly you don't want collisions in the middle of your playing. And anyway, that can come about because of this the plate crown and hammers with just a two-tier bore system.